I was raised like a lot of typical Christians, always hearing the things that you couldn't do. I remember being a child and asked what I wanted to be when I grew up. And first answer I said is, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be rich and do the things that I was told I couldn't do. From the time I was 17 till I was 28, I had no contact with God. I wasn't a Christian. I didn't even remember anything about my upbringing. And I damaged a lot of family relationships. I got involved in sex, drugs, eventually started selling the drugs that I was partying on to support my habits. I got involved with organized crime, sold millions and millions of dollars worth of drugs over the course of several years, and my life had gotten so out of control. I was scared for my life at times, but I was very confused and I was very, very hooked on the same drugs that I was selling to other people. See, I'd already been busted in the state and I already had 2 first-degree felonies, manufacturing charges of ice and also ecstasy. How do you tell people that you've sold millions of dollars worth of drugs that you want to walk away? You're done, you're tired. You know, you make people money like that, it becomes more of an obligation. I felt trapped. I wanted more. How do I walk away from a drug that I'm so helplessly addicted to? And I remember thinking, maybe I need to pray. I hadn't prayed in 11 years, so I didn't even know how to pray anymore. I just looked up at the ceiling and said, God, if you were real, take drugs out of my life. I can't live a lie anymore. I can't do this anymore. And all of a sudden I heard this loud boom, 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 boom. Right before I got to the peephole, the door smashed off the hinges, hit the wall, almost hit me in the head. And in poured about 15 men with machine guns, ski masks, Kevlar, laser scopes, screaming at me to get on the ground, and just thinking I didn't know if I was gonna die, you know? It was a terrifying feeling. At that point, I was facing about 20 years. Sat in jail for a couple weeks before I realized that the answer to my prayer actually had, come to fruition. 3 short hours after, I prayed it. I was like, if God can answer it this quickly, maybe he can go ahead and answer and get me back out. I've learned my lesson, I'll be good. I don't want this lifestyle anymore. I talked to my dad and he started sending me Bible studies, sending me Bibles. He so badly wanted me to know the God of my youth, and I kept on pushing it away because I didn't want to know his God. I wanted to know God the way I wanted to know him. Well, God sends people into people's lives for reasons. About 4 months later, he sends somebody into my life, and it was another person that was facing quite a bit of federal time. We became pretty good friends and eventually became cellmates. He was actually admittedly an atheist. I remember, we would talk many, many nights about things. He said, I think I might be wrong. Listening to your stories and knowing mine, he said, I think that there might be a God and I need to know if there really is. So I just asked him, I was like, what do you want to do? And he looked at me, he said, those Bible studies your dad keeps on sending you? I said, yeah. He said, why don't we do those? Over the next 30 days, we did 30 Bible studies that usually take you 30 weeks. And the next day after we finished them, he shipped out and went to another prison. From that point on, I started doing Bible studies on every floor I went to, every prison I was sent to over the next 2 years, as well as in state and in the federal prison. It's been several years, about 8 years since I've been in prison. 85% of the people that go into prison in Texas go back within 3 years. I was like, I need to do something with my life, so I decided I'm gonna go back to college. Next was basically trying to find my niche in the world. It wasn't easy finding jobs. When looking back and reflecting, I realized that God's been with me all the way. Every time I prayed, he answered my prayer, sometimes quickly, sometimes very, very slowly, but every one of them in God's timing. Praying my first prayer in desperation, asking God to take drugs out of my life, he threw me in prison. That was what I needed, not what I wanted. Next, I prayed that God would deliver me from prison. It took a little longer, but facing 20 years, I only did 2. God was merciful in that point. Last one was freedom from my past. I prayed that God would guide me and help me and give me a fresh start. And that's what he's done over the past 8 years. My name is Mike, and I want more.